Hi, welcome to In the Cloud. I'm your host, Darren Tarlow, and today we'll be talking about account services. Our guest is Scott Steer, who has over 25 years in advertising managing accounts in big oil, alcoholic beverages, even children's television.
Scott, thanks for joining me in the cloud.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
It's a real pleasure. You've had quite a diverse career with agencies both big and boutique. I'm curious to hear how your management differed as you moved between those different clients and types of work environments.
I was always a lead by example kind of account guy. In every place that I've worked, the work ethic, the drive, the do the right thing attitude has always been a part of it. Where it really changed, it was probably in 2001, 2002, and I heard a speech from Carl Johnson at Anomaly. And I always understood it, but I never could sum it up this succinctly. And he basically said, as an account guy, you're responsible for almost everything and have control over almost nothing. It's really all about making sure that you can inspire your team, work in conjunction with your creatives, and lead your client to better outcomes.
Right.
If you can do all three of those things, you're going to be a rock star.
Absolutely, and you kind of led me into my next question. Maybe the thing that Carl Johnson mentioned is definitely a commonality. Were there any other commonalities you saw from small to large or different types of brands, or even just best practices you developed for maximizing cooperation between creatives and account services?
The rub between account services and creative goes deep everywhere, and then throw in the client into that mix, and it's a really pretty vicious triangle.
Yeah.
I needed to win the hearts and minds of creative. We weren't the enemy.
Right. You're all on the same team.
Well, easy words to say, but really hard to do.
Yeah.
You know, it was really about breaking down walls and barriers and making sure that they were giving us honest opinions and feedback, and we're in turn giving them realistic understanding and of deadlines and
Right.
not padding them.
And would you say that was the most effective way of breaking down those walls? Really kind of having that transparent, honest communication?
It really was. The simple gesture of offering an olive branch and extending a lunch invitation did more than anything else.
Right.
We put policies in place. We had status reports. We did the production meetings, etc. But really breaking down those walls is the biggest hurdle.
You mentioned managing expectations. That's the biggest responsibility of any account person. How would you go about? Did you have a personal philosophy or mantra that stuck with you as you moved throughout?
I'm an oversharer by nature, so
TMI. We'll just call you TMI.
And a little worse than that, in that most situations that make typical people uncomfortable don't bother me. If I have to break some bad news, you have to break some bad news. I've always explained to the people who work with me that, you know what, make decisions. If you make the right decision 80% of the time, you're golden, you're going to the Hall of Fame. In the 20% of the time that you don't make the right decision, don't screw up so bad that we can't fix it. A lot of people believe that honesty is the best policy. I believe prudence is the best policy. It's prudent to tell your client exactly what's going on. It's also extremely prudent to know what the solution is before you raise the red flag. So timing is critical, and you have to weigh that back and forth between, all right, are they going to find out before I tell them? Or do I have an hour or two or three to fix the problem and figure out what the solution is to recommend the right steps in order to go forward?
Yeah, that's great advice. Curious to get your take on the future, though. Where do you see this all going, especially as we witness kind of the digital takeover?
20 years ago, we did things based on research and focus groups and whatnot, and had very few metrics. Now, I don't issue a brief without knowing what the metrics ought to be.
Right.
I don't think about new programs without at some point down the road saying, all right, how do we measure this, and what do we know? How do we know when it works and when it doesn't work? So that's a huge shift in less than a generation.
I think that's a very fitting point to conclude our discussion. Your wisdom has been invaluable as always, and it's been a pleasure having you in the cloud.
I would like to be in the cloud more often. Thank you, Mark.
We hope so too. All right, take care.
Take care.